God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Lord, as you know, our nation, our state, and our county have a number of problems. Please give the leaders of all the wisdom to provide the best solutions for our people. Amen.
Okay. Before we begin, we have some changes from the original printed agenda. Item 3C has been deleted. Item 7E has been added. Item 9B has been added. Item 10E, and then the budget work session has been deleted. Are there any other changes, additions? Hearing none, I'd look for a motion to approve the agenda as modified.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, the consent agenda, could I get a motion on that?
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Motion carries 5-0. With that, we move on to our public appearances. And first is a presentation of resolution of recognition to Bailey Hurley Hughes. Beamy. Surprise. You're on candid camera. Really? You really are.
You're kidding me.
No. Come on, Betty.
Are you kidding me?
No, he's not. It's your name's on the agenda here.
But I didn't dress for this.
That's okay.
You're kidding me.
I have a resolution I'd like to read for you. By the Board of Supervisors of Orange County in recognition of Betty Hurley Hughes. Whereas Betty H. Hughes has served as a volunteer with the Orange County Humane Society and with the Orange County Animal Shelter since July Kat Imhoff, Montpelier President, with Ann Lawrence Craftley.
Good evening, all. I am Ann Lawrence Grasty, the Vice President for Development at Montpelier and an Orange County neighbor, and I am delighted to be here to introduce Kat Imhoff, who is our new president at Montpelier, and as of this spring, our newest neighbor. She will be living at Bassett House at Montpelier, along with her husband Jeep and Sarah, her black lab, when they arrive later this year. She's known to some of you as a leasing preservationist and tourism advocate, but I want to just spend a little time tell you about her background before she has some words to say to you all. She spent her formative years in the rural West, Midwest, and Northeast. Her father, in LinkedIn terminology, is an environmental services professional. His business was water. Their family settled in Virginia when she was in high school, and Kat went to the University of Virginia School of Architecture for both undergraduate and graduate degrees. And while she was there, she developed a passion for the Virginia Piedmont and spent most of her career here. She has had a leading role in securing the designation of the Southwest Mountains as a National Rural Historic District, was chaired the Virginia Outdoors Foundation and the Journey Through Hallowed Ground. She was executive director of the Preservation Alliance, and her last job in the Piedmont was chief operating officer at Thomas Jefferson's Monticello, and she was there during the exciting time period when they built the visitor center. She left the Piedmont for Montana 5 years ago to become the state director for the Nature Conservancy, and while she was there, led the Montana Legacy Project, which was the purchase of over 300,000 acres in western Montana for about $500 million. That's the largest conservation project the TNC has ever undertaken. But her passion for the Piedmont could not keep her away forever, and so she is back to join us, exploring that passion for the Piedmont history and preservation, and bringing her here to Montpelier. So, in her third full week on the job, I'm delighted to introduce our new president and newest neighbor, Kat Imhoff.
This is probably Coles to Newcastle, but I wanted to make sure that everybody here had a copy of the contract. You come bearing gifts. I come bearing gifts. Thank you so much for welcoming me. I just thought it was important. Montpelier is so indebted to this area, and I am now going to be a new resident here at Montpelier Station, which is my mailing address. But after hearing the introduction by Betty H. Hughes, I thought that is a hard act to follow. And it just brought back to mind how much a pleasure it is to be in an area where people are really connected to the community, where neighbors matter, and where business is really something that we will be very much a part of. So I wanted to let you know I'm excited to be at Montpelier. I really look forward to working closely. I've already had a fantastic meeting with the Inns of Montpelier, so I know that there's a vibrant business community, but I want to be with all of you hand in hand, thinking about how we can promote this area, talk about tourism, and still have this amazing quality of life and community spirit, which I just really hold so dear, and was one of the things that really brought us back to Virginia. Never, you can take the girl out of the Piedmont, but you couldn't get the Piedmont out of the girl, and I have such a love affair for this area. I have no idea if you guys might have some thoughts. I'm sure you do, about what we're doing at Montpelier. I would really welcome hearing from any of you at times. I've heard some great suggestions about continuing to build ways that we can be involved, and even at a greater extent, with activities in Orange County and with residents of Orange County. But I'd be glad to answer any questions or hear thoughts that you might have. And I will be in Bassett House if only the furniture and the husband and the dog can get here in March. So I'll be fully ensconced at that point. But didn't know if there's any reflections you'd like to share with me at this point.
We may have some discussions Friday evening.
Oh, good. Yes, I would welcome those as well. So I appreciate again what value you have brought to Montpelier, and I hope what Montpelier can bring to Orange. So thanks for welcoming me, and I look forward to a long tenure in partnership with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Then for the business spotlight, we have a little bit different sort of thing. We're looking at the economic
unfortunately, my partner in this project, Warren Dunn, is not available to join us this evening. Our report at its core is about tourism, and we saw it in our study to try to include the perspectives from those whose livelihoods are made from the tourism industry. My interest in studying the impact of the hunt races was sparked by neighbors' comment that the races used to be this wonderful event that was free and open to the community. And now, he groused, that it's descended to the spectacle where you have to pay to get in to see it. So I was wondering, that made me wonder, what sort of benefit does the hunt races have for the county? In our report, we explained the methodologies that we used in trying to evaluate what the impact of the races are. We believe that the methodologies that we've used are credible and if anything, are probably understating the economic activity that arises from that event. The executive director of the races, Martha Strada, opened her financial records for us so that we could see how she spends her money, how she spent, who she buys goods and services from. We then went to purchase a list of all the businesses of Orange County, and I think at the time it totaled about 1,700 businesses. And from that list, was in alphabetical order, we matched that against her expenditure list so that we could see which businesses she was purchasing goods and services from in Orange County. From that list of all the businesses, we were able to identify that out of a total expenditures of something like $500,000 for the races, that she spent at least, at a minimum, of $168,000 for goods and services that she purchased from Orange County businesses. So we have a baseline of how much the races contribute to the economy. That's called the direct effect. An economist, John Maynard Keynes, long ago came up with this theory on the multiplier effect. And in the theory it says that a dollar of expenditure ripples through the economy, keeps multiplying as it goes through the economy. And it results in indirect expenditures and it results in imputed expenditures. And since the indirect and the imputed expenditures exceed the direct expenditures, it's called the multiplier effect. If you use a common multiplier, one common multiplier is for each direct dollar of expenditure, it multiplies 4 times through the economy. If you used just that simple common yardstick and applied it against the $168,000 that they purchase goods and service from, it translates to purchasing $850,000 of goods and services in Orange County, a fairly substantial amount for a one-day event, which is the largest one-day tourist event in Orange County. And if you took the total amount and we're trying to identify just the impact in Orange County, the overall impact is more likely in the magnitude of $2 million for that one-day event. And we wanted to test some of the assumptions that the models that we are aware of in calculating the tourism impact. So we, in the list that we had of the 1,700 businesses, was grouped by business type. And out of those business types, we decided to interview some representative from each of those businesses. And looking at the list, it appeared very clear that there's a minimum of 200 businesses, if not more. And I think in talking with Julia, she thought it's probably in the magnitude of 300 plus businesses that are either directly or indirectly connected to tourism. We conducted 30 interviews with 30 businesses out of that Representative Powell, and to try to get a sense of how much money they are earning as a result of the races. And from those interviews, we were informed that businesses are earning as little as $2,000 and as much as $60,000. Just 5 businesses alone reported earning, $120,000, just 5 businesses, and that's out of a likely pool of 200 businesses. it's a fairly significant impact. And it appears that that Ford multiplier is a reasonable assumption to use in forecasting the economic impact. But in our report, when you read through it, you'll find that we have tried to develop a more site-specific model in making our calculations of what the impact is. And you'll find that in the report. Our report suggests that the VTC, the Virginia Tourism Council, that reports that tourism generates $41.68 million of economic activity in Orange County in 2011, and that supports something like 540 jobs in the county. Our research indicates that those numbers are likely significantly understated. The VTC data, and I'm pretty sure you've probably seen that data reported in the past about the tourism activity. That data does not include the impact for towns, the town of Orange and the town of Gordonsville. And I'm sure you're aware that a significant amount of the tax revenue that the towns generate or receive comes from the lodging and the food tax, and a lot of that is brought about by tourism. So that's a significant pool of funding that is not included in the VTC number. And moreover, it doesn't include the taxes that are derived from the personal and real estate taxes that are invested in tourism infrastructure, the buildings and the other facilities they have that supports tourism. We gave a presentation on our report last month and invited about 40 businesses, represented 40 businesses. And from the comments we heard from those people that attended the meeting, which became very, very lively at times, and also sort of at times sort of to a bitch session, but that was to be expected. But from our interviews and from the comments we heard, that it appears that there is a significant opportunity for the county to improve its advocacy for tourism. And some of the first steps might be to compile a list of all those businesses that are involved in tourism. It's a very lengthy list. And another thing you might want to think of is trying to develop, having a symposium for all those businesses. There seemed to be a desire among those we interviewed to meet one another to discuss these things. There's also some comment about the present arrangement for the tourism, Tourism Council. So I'm sure with some additional efforts that we can see even more tourism revenue. So if you have any questions about the report, happy to entertain them now, or if you have, if you've read the report, if you have any questions, feel free to call me. Do you have any comments or questions now? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Next we have the housing assessment by Skyline Cap, Randy Day.
Thank you. On behalf of the Board of Directors of Skyline Community Action Partnership and our Executive Director, Kim Farr-Smith, and Housing Manager, Jack Naylor, I thank you for making time to hear our update on housing needs in Orange County. I thank you, Supervisor Frame, for your opening prayer, and we hope that this assessment will provide you with some of the wisdom and guidance you are seeking as you make decisions regarding housing issues in Orange County. At Skyline, affordable housing is the foundation of our actions promoting self-sufficiency for those in need. During 2012, we undertook an in-depth housing assessment process to identify gaps in services. This included a demographic assessment, community survey, and meetings with local stakeholders. The ultimate goal for housing identified during the course of our assessment process is to keep owners and renters in safe, accessible, and affordable housing that will meet their long-term needs. This translated into the following
weatherization and modifications to improve access for the disabled, provided housing counseling related to finance, home ownership, foreclosure prevention, and how to be a good renter. Financial counseling was stressed by the majority of participants in the stakeholder meetings as being the crucial missing link in housing stability for all populations, regardless of income. Developing new housing with universal design features to allow for lifetime living. This includes both rental and home ownership units. Coordinating services among the various social service providers to help residents access all types of assistance, including physical and mental health services, transportation, and financial assistance. And finally, developing new housing models that address the needs of special populations, including the homeless, formerly incarcerated persons, youth aging out of foster care, and fragile seniors. This will require ongoing supportive services for residents. Skyline is in the process of evaluating our capacity and opportunities to meet these needs, and we hope to have the support of Orange County government as we proceed with these efforts to meet the needs of the residents. Housing isn't just about 4 walls and a roof or a piece of real estate or home equity. Numerous studies have outlined the importance of housing in creating a stable home and a sustainable, healthy future for its occupants. With our services, we try to address the 4 primary areas of housing concerns: housing quality, residential stability, affordable housing, and neighborhood location. Housing quality can positively affect children's safety and health outcomes, leading to better school attendance rates and improved attentiveness in class, which of course leads to better grades. Home repair services were identified in our 2012 assessment as one of the most pressing needs in all of our service communities. We have historically only offered this service in Orange County in partnership with Rapidan Better Housing. However, we recently received a grant from Bama Works Fund, for which we're very proud, to offer direct home repair services to households who have a member with a disability. Residential stability can lead to an uninterrupted school year, avoid disruptions at home caused by an unplanned move, and lots of stress that we all know goes with that, and lead to fewer school changes that leave children behind academically. Our emergency assistance program helps prevent homelessness and maintain residential stability through one-time payments that will prevent eviction or utility cutoff. So far this fiscal year, which began in July 2012, we have assisted 70 households representing 253 individuals with more than $15,000 in emergency assistance payments. We also work to promote housing stability with our housing counseling and foreclosure prevention programs. This fiscal year to date, we have helped modify mortgages for 3 households, allowing them to stay in their home. Last year, we helped modify 1 mortgage and establish a new payment plan for a second, and the year before, 3 mortgages were modified. We currently have 7 Orange County households in counseling. To continue this work, we've received grants from the Charlottesville Area Community Foundation, American Woodmark, Wells Fargo, and Virginia Housing Development Authority, which helps us in the face of declining funds from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, who's been our traditional funder. Affordable housing promotes financial security and leads to improvements in housing quality and stability. As you can imagine, when your paycheck runs out just after you've paid the rent or the mortgage, you have very little resources left for everything else. Affordable is a relative term, but is crucial to every household. In Orange County, we help our clients identify affordable housing options and develop a budget that is sustainable for them long term. The need for affordable housing is lifelong, from initial household formation to senior years. We have recently begun to develop rental housing for seniors in Greene County. While Orange County has more units of subsidized rental housing than either Greene or Madison combined, our study has determined that Orange is still in need of additional subsidized rental units, even more so than our other counties. We hope Orange County will continue to support affordable rental housing development. And neighborhood location determines access to quality schools and daycare, which promotes education for children and employment opportunities for families. We are fortunate to live in a rural community that does not share the concerns of inner-city blight and underfunded schools, where turning a street corner may mean moving from a good school district to a poor one. However, we have to honestly admit that there are neighborhoods within the county that provide greater access to services, employment, and other opportunities. The Housing Choice Voucher that we administer allows us to help 137 households each year in Orange County alone locate in the neighborhood of their choice and promote the best possible living situation. So we hope to continue and expand these efforts in the years to come to promote the desired, safe, accessible, and affordable housing for individuals
said most of the foreclosure activities occurred down in Locust Grove.
Yes.
Is it in the older homes or the newer homes?
I do not have that information.
Okay. Uh, You're saying that we need 2,700 units in the next 3 years of rental housing.
Yes.
That's a huge, I mean, I don't see that happening, and
Are
just
they
in
already,
terms of.
well, are they already Orange County residents, or are these people that are moving to Orange County?
It's based on projected population growth in the county. So we can assume that it's a little bit of both.
So if the houses don't appear, the growth won't appear.
That's kind of the quandary.
So it's not existing Orange County residents, it's the growth either, I'm just,
It's growth in households. So the idea is that household growth would come from new people moving into the county, because it's such a wonderful place to live, or new households forming when you finally kick your 22-year-old son out of the house because he finally got a job and,
The numbers are pretty daunting. When I talk about 2,700 new housing units.
It's also based on existing households that are unaffordably housed in the county, and that's actually the majority of that. So it's existing Orange County residents who are
Inadequately housed?
inadequately housed. And also,
So you're saying of the 2,700, the majority of them are people who currently live in inadequate housing?
yes, or unaffordable housing. And then also seniors who are unaffordably housed who might desire to move to an affordable rental housing situation. I'd be happy to provide you with that detailed calculation if you like.
I think that, I would like to see some more of that.
It'd be nice
go
to
ahead.
see that broken down, because I'm just trying to put it in the context of other numbers that we know about. I mean, the last numbers I saw from Weldon Cooper for population increase was, 0.7% over between now and 2040 or something
Yeah.
like that. I mean, out for 20-some years. That's one number. Another number is, and again, I don't have it with me, but I think the building permits so far this year in the entire county for dwellings is something around 100.
Yes.
So,
You can
all of a
see-
sudden, we're not passing in the dark here in terms of
You can see the numbers I used on page 2 of the information I provided you shows more significant growth in the county.
And that number comes
2
from where?
It comes from Esri Demographics, which is a national provider, actually I think they're international provider of demographic projections and forecasts.
I'd like to see the correlation between that number and Weldon Cooper.
I can tell you that I've compared them in the past, and Weldon Cooper does seem to be much more conservative in their estimates.
but also the breakdown between those existing residents that are in unaffordable or whatever
Inadequate.
term, inadequate, yes, housing as compared to the new residents coming in. We need to understand the
And I would like-
relationship among those.
And I'd like to understand the criteria that you use for inadequate or unaffordable.
Well, it's primarily unaffordable.
Okay.
The inadequate housing is very difficult because the data, the hard numbers that we have is based on lack of complete plumbing and lack of complete kitchen, and we know that that does not cover all of the inadequate housing and as far as health and safety and accessibility issues. So that number is very small. I think it's even 1% or less. The affordability issue is those people who are paying more than 30% of their income towards housing costs. 30% being
So
federal
if I'm
standard.
looking here and I've got a large number of people, let's say 2,000, who are paying more than 30% of their income for housing, that's the ones you say I need to come up with new rental housing that's cheaper.
well, then I fall in that category myself, so you might wanna make that,
2001?
2,708. I mean, I'm just saying.
Let me ask another question. You've talked about developing new housing with universal design features. Are those universal design features showing up in building codes at all? Okay, all your resources, how much of it is coming from grants? I know you get some support from the individual counties. How much is coming from grants?
It's an increasing share, but we are still primarily relying on government funding from the federal, state, and local levels.
If that's your question.
And what's your projections on those?
On the grants,
Grants and government support.
we are still, the agency still funded primarily 85 to 90% federal funding.
Federal funding.
Our housing grants that we use to do home repair,
Uh-huh.
bring homes up to standard, are primary, and that's a very small percentage. As Brandon mentioned, through private grants like BattleWorks, specifically for Orange County and Greene County, that type of thing. So it's a very small percentage. We continue to seek out those funds, and the charitable giving, of course, that's something that is, again, is very slight.
When you support housing repairs, to what degree are you demanding that the individuals that live there are supporting it either with labor or participating in the thing? Because I've been to a lot of pretty bad places that looked like they had a couple of strapping young people who could do a lot of work to improve it.
Well, we,
Mr. Frame, our programs are set up to provide affordable housing and home repair for typically seniors with disabilities. Families do provide, and Jack can say this, provide a huge amount of what we call match. If we're able to provide some of the cost for the roof, they might provide another 80% of that, whether it's in money or labor. So we don't, because of our funding sources, we might ask that, but it's not a requirement. For instance, like with Habitat, I think they might require some of the sweat labor. You know, in most instances, or in a lot of instances, if that's available and if we can have that happen, we will ask for it, just to get the job done, just like we have with our volunteers and whatnot. So
it's the rare occasion where our home repair is done with strictly agency money. In fact, most of our funds come from the Virginia Department of Housing and Community Development, and they require a specific portion of matching, whether it come from volunteer labor or private contributions.
one of the things that I could, very quickly, if I could mention too, in regards
Could you come up here so we can hear you a little bit better, please?
Excuse me, gentlemen. One of the things that I just wanted to mention as well, when we were talking about inadequate housing, and, you know, I'm not looking at the stats in regards to how, you know, what that degree is, or the numbers, but with our rental assistance, for instance, you know, that's very stringent in regards to inspections and looking at the housing, you know, particular county. And not
affected their property value.
Well, that has to do with upkeep, not the subsidy of the property and the stringency.
Oh,
And one of
true.
the programs.
But
that
that's kind of what I'm getting back at. When you own your home, there's a pride and ownership in your home, and I am all for encouraging finding affordable homes that people can purchase. And that part of it, that's why I'm saying this is the part I need to be sensitive about, encouraging people to be in their own home and they can own, instead of building low income rental homes where people are coming in because it's cheaper for them to live here.
And you sense there's a sense of transience, and that it's that NIMBY, not in my own backyard.
Well, it's not only that, it's that we have challenges here that the lower socioeconomic status, they have a difficulty with. We don't have public transportation. We don't have a large employment base for them here. We lack in a lot of our social services that they may need. And so coupled, they've got all those problems coupled upon, and then they move here because the housing's cheaper, but then the only job they have is McDonald's. Well, we are, you put in a lot of these people, and it's a secular.
With the,
Perpetuating
I
the
hear what
cycle.
you're
Thank
saying.
you. We're not lifting them up, and I hate to sound like that, but
And we're not insensitive to that at all. Our programs really are, we organize it and we put it together. The vouchers are really to assist those folk who, they may not be able to afford the entire rent, the $1,200
Right.
a month, et cetera. So what we also provide to them is budget counseling, assistance with their budget so that they are maintaining their households and they are taking some pride. The difficulties that we often run into is from the landlord's point of view, in that it's real important to keep those, to maintain those, whether it's the apartment buildings, and we try to, again, with the voucher program, you're able to select the place that you want to be, whether it's in a home, a house, a single dwelling, or an apartment, what's available. But those places does allow them to hopefully maintain their income so that they can afford to do the other things that they need to do. And yes, they are traveling outside of the area. And that's not just Orange County. You see that anywhere. And in regards to property values, and again, the maintenance of the particular building, that has a lot to do with it as well. But I hear what you're saying in that, you do run into situations where things aren't maintained the way they should be.
did you also factor into how many units is it that the town of Orange is getting ready to? I mean,
I read that too.
Was that factored into this number? I mean, it's
No.
it's significant.
Yeah, I don't remember the exact number. We
Right,
did
and
daylight
we had,
last week,
I remember reading about that, I don't know if it was in your report.
60?
But at least that
150.
rental, I know and some are set aside for.
All 100. I think that's what I'm saying. I mean, it's a
all low income.
yeah.
or-
Both of them, Round Hill Meadows and what's the other one called? Just Round Hill, isn't
Yeah.
it?
And that's a good thing, and again, it's not just in Orange County that we're seeing this, but it's
it's a
depends
local
on their
requirement.
funding.
I think if it's at,
They receive tax credits
Yeah.
and that type of thing, so that's how they were able
Yeah.
to do that, so.
But
which
I
is
think
fine.
like in Over in Fairfax, even without tax credits and stuff, you had to set aside like 10% or something for,
but I think that's what I was gonna say, I think doesn't our ordinance have something in there about the, I don't know.
I think,
And what, the point I'm trying to focus, I like the part of it where we're helping
Yeah.
people stay to the best of their ability, and then the part where you're, you know, if you have someone that's in a home, elderly people that are in a home that they can't manage anymore, it does make sense to, have more like senior living and type. It just, when you read this, and Tom did a little number off on the side, when you read that first thing, it's, you need 2,700 units. It sounds like it's that you need for 2,700 more people, and I don't, but when you break it back down and you read the rest of the paragraph underneath, I just wanna make it clear, because it's not all, you know, it doesn't all have to be rental units, it can be affordable housing too. I mean, it could be affordable housing that people
I
could
just
purchase.
want to point out that some of the issues, well, first of all, issues with maintenance are often landlord issues. But second of all, there's, we just found out with the housing crash that you shouldn't be pushing people into homeownership. That a lot of the foreclosure problem was, you know, relaxed government lending regulations that allowed people to purchase a home before they were ready. That has tightened credit conditions so that you now, you have to have an exceedingly high credit score to be able to purchase a home. So the rental need right now is greater than it will be as a percentage of the household.
Right.
Housing need is greater now than it will be 5 years from now. So, you know, this, of course, there's always going to be a need for affordable rental housing. There's always going to be a low-income population in
That's
Orange
true.
County. But right now, pushing into home ownership to create the perception of a more stable, more invested household can be rectified by creating better quality rental housing, better maintained rental housing, and educating the residents about how they should properly maintain their housing, and that's one of the programs that we are looking
Part
at.
of the things that we did. But,
Hey,
How is your funds, your federal funds, how's that allocation determined? Is
In
it based on
regard-
the population of the area, or what's your budgeting process to request funds from the
For
feds?
the entire agency, as a community action agency, again, we have probably 40, 50 streams of funding, and our core funding, CSBG, Community Services Block Grants, are divvied up or divided based on population, the size, population, the county, and the number of counties that we serve, which is Madison, Greene, and Orange County,
secret agency that are known as RSA, Rapid Service Authority. In the last 5 years, the sewer rate has gone up 142%. That's from January 2008 to November of 2012. We have seen in one locality a monthly service charge to remedy a DEQ requirement of $7 a month was added several years ago. And that fee was supposed to be broken out in our billing, but it has not been. So I don't know if that $7 a month charge forever is going to be $7 or is it 140% of $7 now. And that's $350,000 a year in that community that's being spent that we have no knowledge of what's happening on it. I've worked for several years, and you've heard me here before a while ago asking about detail about the finances and reporting and plans for RSA, and I've gotten no avail. I've gone through their reports, their financial reports that we get out yearly. I've asked for plans versus actuals. I've been told they don't have to provide them, and that's it. What we provide to the Public Utility Commission to get our rate increases is sufficient. And I've really got a concern about what's happening here in the county and the charges and what they're doing and how they're operating things. One of the things that I've asked for quite a while ago, prior to getting a new county attorney, was there was a question about transferring county property that was procured under a bond issue, like the school water tower, to a third party without cost, and whether it was legal or not. And I have not, still haven't gotten an answer on that. My concern is, if there is a transfer of that $1 million of county taxpayers' money to a third agency, then the county residents will immediately start paying double for that. Because when it goes on RSA books, they immediately start depreciation, replacement reserve, and repair costs on that facility. And I don't know how you're going to address this, but you've already transferred a considerable amount of county residents' property to that third party. My other concern is that I'd like the board to really consider what they're going to do with RSA. Because RSA was originally developed as a 3-county area thing, and it's going to be specifically because of water concerns and supply. As far as I can see from all the details I can dig out of their files, Orange County is the majority of the responsibility for RSA now, and Madison and Greene have very little to do with RSA's activities. Which brings me to the county's requirement for water. And we all know that in the very near future, the county is going to have to address the impound area that's going to have to go on the other side of Route 3. And as we've seen what's happened in Stafford County with Rocky Run Reservoir, that's taken approximately 15 years or more to go from the planning stages until implementation. My concern there is, what are we going to do? How are we going to do it? How's the funding going to come? And who is going to end up owning that? Is it going to stay a county with county taxpayers' money through bond issues, or is it going to go to a public utility? And then you ought to start looking at when you're going to start doing this stuff. Time's running short, and I think, the ability for us to draw down water out of the river right now is available to us. And if we don't start plans immediately, we don't know what's going to happen in the next few years on the availability of being able to draw down from that river. So I request that you really take hard consideration and look at all these items that I've brought before you and see if there's anything you can do, specifically any help you can do in getting additional planning and financial data detail out of RSA. I'm throwing a lot at you if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce.
And did I get an answer on that legal aspect?
We'll see if we can get an answer
I think it was a great step in the right direction in documenting tourism as an economic force in Orange County. It's no secret that tourism is successful in the county. Figures from the VTC point that the 2011 figures show a 10% increase over 2010 in dollars coming into the county. The Orange County Department of Tourism's quarterly report shows a very positive scenario for this quarter. Tourism works in Orange County, but we all seem to struggle on how it really does work. Are we promoting the county in the best way possible? How much of the tax revenue base can we count on from every year? What are we doing right, and what are we not doing? Are we really growing, or is it some uncharacteristic tick upwards? These are some of the questions we should be asking ourselves. The effort by the government and businesses needs to strengthen to maximize the economic potential of tourism in this county. There needs to be a closer and meaningful dialogue on issues such as the goals, areas of concentration, and what measures need to be assembled to ensure that we are on the correct path and going in the right direction. Being a bed and breakfast owner for 5 years, and I've noticed major changes in the bed and breakfast industry. When we first got into it, it was mom and pop. It was a mom and pop defined inn, and it was littered with tchotchkes, and that it was viewed as something as a retirement thing. And now, in today's day and age, the bed and breakfasts are the innkeepers are younger. They provide modern amenities, offer professional hospitality with cleaner, sharper facilities, and a watchful eye on the bottom line. Like the B&B industry, tourism is a business, and it's not a hobby. The business owners in this county are eager to grow tourism to its full potential. Other counties have instituted tourism advisory boards made up of local businesses to help with the direction of tourism. I think we're at the crossroads where we need to be seriously considered this type of structure and approach. And I don't think there's a better time to do to institute something like this. The wine industry is hotter than ever. We have Montpelier gaining in popularity, and we're all encouraged by the new leadership there. We have fantastic restaurants. The wedding business is growing rapidly. We have Civil War sites and the natural beauty, and Orange County is so positioned to capitalize on the new tourism emphasis of agritourism. That is certainly going to be the growth area for the state, and Orange County is perfectly suited to become the Central Virginia hub of that particular activity. The county's got a lot to offer its visitors. I suggest that we just get better organized, and we can really take advantage of the opportunities that are presented to us. Thank you.
Jay, I have a question.
Yes. Go ahead.
In your recommendation of a tourism advisory committee, and knowing you the way that I do, I would bet my answer you have a answer to my question. Do you already have some type of scheme planned out in your mind? Because knowing you the way I do, I would think you probably have already, while changing sheets and.
I have a.
You kind of have a vision in your mind.
I have somewhat of a vision. Probably needs to be more researched. I'm pretty much like James Madison. I'll go out and find out what's going right out there. There are some examples out there. Stanton has an advisory council of tourism, and we're just at the point now where we could really capitalize on tourism. And I think with the help of government and the local businesses, we can find ways to capitalize and work together.
Do you have any ideas as the kinds of things that government could do that would further help?
Nothing specifically as far as, but nothing specific other than putting more resources towards tourism and promoting the county more and more. One thing the county might want to consider is that we've been toying with tourism as an industry here in this county for so long. We really could use a baseline study baseline to identify what our strengths are, what our weaknesses are, and what our opportunities are, and what's realistic. So that would be extremely helpful.
I've sat on some of the tourism council meetings, and I haven't heard any of this kind of stuff in
Right.
terms of recommendations, things that we might do. I mean, I've comment people saying what's going on, and these are things, but I haven't heard any of these kind of broader inputs, and I was just looking if anybody had done any kind of what we can do. I mean, it's just I'm sort of surprised at
Right.
this. That's why.
Oh. Well, I've spoken with Julie and Lee and just talked about how to improve it right now and where we can have better communications. And this is kind of like an idea starter that we should be moving into this type of direction. And I'm not saying, we got to do it now or, these things take time.
In theory, the advisory council would not be in lieu of the tourism roundtable. There's a purpose for both, which may be why you haven't heard this type of thing at the tourism roundtable. There are some examples that would be good ones to look at if there was interest in informing this, and they would have two different purposes, although I imagine they would have some overlap.
Can we make I don't know what it would be, but because just so this doesn't go off, because so often we have ideas and they're great at the time, and then stuff else comes up and it gets set aside. But it might be something that, and you see what happens when you're the one who comes forth bringing the information. You also become the one who we might rely heavily on
Well,
to assist us,
Mhm.
especially with developing your vision of what you see in other places, and to see if it's something that's even
Right.
feasible.
Right. I think another step is to, as Mr. Miller suggested, is a tourism symposium. I think it was 2 years ago, there was an agritourism symposium over at the airport. Very well done. Very well done. Had speakers come in from the state.
Yeah.
And probably the most benefit from all that was actually talking with all the other tourism-related businesses. We started a network, and we started to put together packages for the bed and breakfasts. I mean, it was great, and also communicating more with the state and finding out what they're doing and how we can get more money from the state, possibly.
That would be cool.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jane.
Thank you. And
The last speaker is Mary Lou Seelheimer.
Silheimer.
Seelheimer.
Hello, Mary Lou. comment? Okay. Then we can move on to the action items. 7A is held until after 7:30. I would have a request that we could do 7E first, since I had two gentlemen sitting in the back, and I told them I thought we would address this a bit earlier. And I know Alan had something to do later on, if not a problem.
Sure. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, we've received a request in our efforts working with the Orange Youth Sports Foundation to consider the purchase of a tractor, a woods mower, and, a Kubota tractor with loader and a woods mower. This is a combination of both used and new equipment. The equipment is estimated at about $16,000. The request is for us to purchase these and to have credited against, I guess a way to say it, the Booster Park line item in the budget, 5333 for this year and the two preceding years from now. So the request is for a mower and a tractor with loader that would be used to maintain the fields. The used equipment is in excellent condition, and this would be so that the folks of Orange Youth Sports could do their own mowing. And again, the proposal is for us to pay for the mower, and then over this current year and the next 2 years, take approximately $5,300 against their Booster Park line item to pay for that, to cover that.
Okay, what you just read and what you just said, go ahead and pay for it now, and
Yes,
then
ma'am.
over the next 3 years, take out. My question to you is, how do you, it's the next 2 and 3 years, because
You would be
can't-
making
you
the
can't-
assumption that you would put in that line item at least 5333 the next 2 years as well.
How much is in it this year?
We typically put $10,000 in there
Okay,
a
so,
year, and we put money in the other parks as well.
okay,
of that
so
amount.
there's $10,000 for the booster. If we take out $5,333.33, is the balance gonna be enough to take care of the costs of operating booster?
Well, that account is placed in reserve as it is for the other parks in case there's an expenditure that needs to be made, such as this, or if there is a need for funding. There isn't always the intent at the beginning of the year that
To actually
we're gonna
spend?
have $10,000 and this is how we're gonna spend it. Some years we've spent in excess of 10,000, some years we haven't spent 10,000. This amount to date has already, or this account has already had some expenditures. Recently, we fixed a heat pump at the concession stand. So there's fiscally speaking, it's possible to do this, to take $16,000 of funds and buy something and then
Reduce
attribute
that
it.
budget item, that line item for the next 2 years by
Yes,
that
sir.
amount.
Yes, sir. So fiscally, it can be done. It's just the will of the board as if it will be done or not.
And the pressing issue on this, of course, is that the equipment is coming available and there are other people that wish to purchase it. So we need to act upon it to do something, or the equipment will get away.
The only difference in what you stated on the tractor actually doesn't have a loader.
Oh.
That's something
Right,
that we,
nose.
With the loaders also is separately quoted, but part of the $16,000.
and like I said, we kind of had them assess both pieces of equipment, which was well over what we're being offered to us for, to you guys. But yeah, it is a time sensitive item, especially on the tractor.
And if we didn't do this, how do we get the lawn mowed?
Well, we've been
Exactly.
spending around $9,000 a year of what we raised to
idea, at
The
3 years, are
tractor-
they gonna be completely used up, or do they have a life of another 4, 5, 6 years, you think?
The mower is actually probably a little, right at a year old. An estate had it. They mowed maybe 12 acres. It looks practically brand new. The blades have never been replaced on it. They're that good. The tractor is owned by Woodbury right now, and all it's done is mow the fairways and stuff but it has right around probably 4,000 hours on it. It's a diesel, 62 horsepower tractor. Two-wheel drive, turf tires, so it's set up just for mowing. And we would possibly, in the future, the park would, with the OISF, would try to maybe buy a loader for it ourselves and put on or raise money to put a loader on if we needed it.
But once we buy this, then if in 5, 6, 7 years it craps out, we'd be expected to replace it again, I would imagine.
I suppose it would depend on the situation at the time. Right now, the expense is, getting made through a contract mower versus, having the equipment there and the volunteers to work that equipment.
How much money is left in that line item?
I have that. We did have a carry forward last year, so, right now, what is in the line item is $14,799.
Okay. $14,799. Do you have $1,300?
Not on.
Alan Taylor, I know your line. I mean, if
I don't have a problem, well, I'm speaking, we still have to do it as a board, but, if you did it all in what we have left over this year, instead of breaking it over 3 years, if you're worried about maybe not being in the budget for 2014, if that's where you were going with this.
Well, I'm just thinking that other things are gonna come up over the next few years. This one, we're getting closer to the end of our fiscal year, at least halfway through it.
And we just wanted to be left with a little money
do
to,
you have the 1,300? No.
I can write a check for it, but
But the park.
the park does not have it right
Okay,
now.
that's the answer to the
Pretty much
question.
Right.
starts right.
So we would
I think
need-
it's got like
We don't have much.
$400.
$473
So,
and change.
so we would have to, do a budget appropriation from, contingency to cover that 1,300. Because it would zero out that, I mean, the money's gotta come from somewhere.
Right,
So
the money
it might as well
wouldn't-
come from that 1,400, I mean, 14,000. And then that zeroes out that account.
Mhm.
And then 1,300 is coming from contingency.
Well, we wouldn't necessarily take it from contingency. That was what Glenda was, gonna detail if there was an interest in doing this. We definitely can find it in contingency, or we can try to find it somewhere else as well, but
Where would the other else be?
like a Linda.
next year.
Yeah, just saves accounting messes for the next couple of years.
So we'll take the 14,000 from the Booster Park, District 3 or whatever, line item, and then the District 4 or 5 will take, 2,000 from,
Right.
leaving 799.45 in the account.
With it being clearly stated that I'm not saying that if something else arises out there that they can't come back and ask. That's not, I'm just saying clearly that's where it's coming from, and then we're not for the next 2 years
Keeping
taking.
accounting shit.
Just go ahead and do it and support them now for what they need to do. I make that motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Yes. Is there any legal or liability issues associated with non-county employees operating our equipment like this?
Not any more than we would have for anything else. I mean, if we're negligent, well, we got sovereign immunity anyway. So, not really. There's not a lot of risk to
I
us.
don't think we're buying it. They're buying it. We're
Right.
giving them the money
And
to buy.
I
And
checked
if
with
they
Brian.
leave, that's the way our, that's the way our.
Brian Hargett, he said it was no different than a baseball coach being out there. He said
Okay,
it was.
so we don't own the equipment?
No, we own the equipment. Our lease says we own it if they vacate.
Yes.
They use it like it's theirs.
It's y'all's, we just use it.
If we
to
get
maintain.
sued, we're gonna get sued based on them operating, which they're already doing. That would just be an extension of their operating.
Okay, all right. Okay, that's all I'm concerned about.
Any suit against us would be that we were negligent in allowing them to operate, and that would just be an extension of allowing them to operate. So I don't see any increased liability.
Okay, all right.
One other question or comment, there's two issues with owning this equipment. There's the finding the people and getting the commitment to operate it when it needs to be, grass needs to be cut or whatever. But then there's also the maintenance issue. Have you made adequate provisions for both of those as far as you
Yes, sir.
feel at this point? Because these are the kind of things that can become an issue when
I don't think
You
you
don't want it
realize
to-
you're standing there talking to a mechanic
I know
and
that.
someone who.
and I was watching him shake his head. Thank you for being on record with that head shake.
And something else I wanted to throw in there, just so y'all know, we're not destroying the equipment. I can supply maintenance records yearly, annually, whatever, so y'all can know that.
As long as somebody's gonna take care of it, I just,
Well, we have two of the local businesses that have offered their services, free labor on anything we need for the park,
Okay.
on the equipment, unless it gets something ridiculous, but they pretty much agreed to take care of the equipment, we just pay for the material, so.
Only other comment I would have is that in light of what we heard before on housing, forcing people into ownership that leaves them nothing, which leaves nothing in the line item. Yeah, we might say we can come back with something, but my only question would be if we do that, then we've zeroed out their line item completely. It's a lot easier if there's a little something in there to work with.
I mean, come on. I mean, let's.
whether they've got $1,000 in that line item or not, or zero, if there's a problem that needs fixing, they're gonna come here and we're gonna look at the problem and see we wanna spend the money. And I don't think the line item is gonna make a difference as to if they've gotta spend $2,000 on something, and we think it's worthwhile, we'll fund it. If we don't think it's worthwhile,
Teal, you can float them alone.
Mary Lou already hit it before, so.
As the motion is now, we'll leave 799.45 in that line item.
okay.
All right,
Well, there you go.
well, we have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Mr. Goodwin,
Aye.
Mr. Wilson, Mr. Frame,
Aye.
Mrs. Abbott,
Aye.
Mr. White.
Aye.
Was purchase
Thank y'all.
some equipment.
I've got, papers here on our 501c3 information.
Yeah,
Just give
give
them
it to Julie.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
All right, thank y'all. Okay, move back then, to 7B, support letter for the RRCS. Julie.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, members of the board,
Just a quick update. Apparently, the FCC has given Stratcom International the go-ahead for their Louisa County project. So they're going to be able to get access to some bandwidth within the TV white space. This letter that's before you to Brian Gilbreth of CVCA Link is to join Orange in that project. We do not need to be writing the FCC because they've already granted the bandwidth to the lead organization. This is the local service provider that would be the organization to actually make the connection in people's homes and businesses to link up with Stratcom's license from the FCC. I think the EDA heard a presentation on this in their last meeting, and I spoke with one of the members last night, and they thought it sounded like a reasonable thing to do as well. So this is before you to send the letter of support and ask that we be included and that some of our residents benefit from a connection speed that is far superior to what they have now, which in many cases is dial-up.
Yes.
Is that your motion?
Second.
It is.
Yes.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
You're on record as making a motion now.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's all right.
I would have said less if I knew all this support was.
Okay, roll call.
Mr. Frame?
Aye.
Mrs. Add?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
Mr. Goodwin?
Aye.
Mr. White?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. With our couple minutes left, can we get 7D, the one-year
Absolutely.
renewal?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, it's time to renew our contract with Digital Benefit Advisors. You probably remember David Blanchard, who's been here on a number of occasions to do presentations about our health insurance and dental insurance costs. And this is the contract with his company. They are basically our insurance consultants, and they've been very helpful. I think the county's had a really beneficial relationship with them over the last several years. And we'd like to renew, this would be our third renewal out of a possible 4.
So we'll have to go ahead and RFP it out again next year.
Right.
Have they been so kind as to offer some estimate of how much money they've saved us through their efforts? A lot of times firms do that.
They really haven't,
We
in
could
the
make some
time that I've been
estimates.
here.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what they
I'm
say.
sure they'd love to share it with us.
It's a dramatic savings over the former consultant, only because they have a flat fee. The former consultant took a percentage of the insurance bill.
Right.
So the higher the bill, the higher
More
the
they made.
commission. So just the restructuring of how we pay the consultant has made a
Might be interesting to have that information.
Happy to ask for that.
I move we exercise another one-year option.
I'll second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
Mrs. Add?
Aye.
Mr. Frame?
Aye.
Mr. White?
Aye.
Mr. Goodwin?
Aye, motion carries 5-0. Okay.
What's the reason we're doing the update on fire billing after 7:30?
I believe there's some information that they wanted to discuss in closed meeting, but
Okay.
All right, it is now 6:30, so
consultation in open meeting would adversely affect the negotiating or litigating posture of the public body, and consultation with legal counsel employed or retained by the public body regarding specific legal matters requiring the provision of legal advice by such counsel pursuant to 2.23711A7 of the Code of Virginia. And whereas pursuant to 223711A7 and 29 of the Code of Virginia, such discussions may occur in closed session.